and you can have questions.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Jayant and I'm from Corte. Corte is an entity that is representing different national enforcement authorities across the EU. And I don't have a question, but I would just like to express our support from the enforcement authorities side as well to what Mark stated in his slides, where he said that it is important that the eFTI platform and framework encompasses all the other platforms and databases that are out there and are currently being used by the enforcement authorities as well, such as the ERU, the TACOnet, RESPER. There is the ProDriveNet as well that is now there. I think it's really important for the enforcers on the road, if they want to be efficient in their checks, that they don't have to shuffle through different platforms. And it's easier for them to get the access to the data that they need, and to keep the metaphor of the door alive through a single door. And this is, I think, going to be useful then for compliance as well as enforcement. So I just wanted to express this from the enforcement community's perspective as well. Thank you.
So the question was to you, I guess.
Oh, well, I did not really understand it as a question, more like a confirmation of what I said about the, let's say, the interlinking of the systems. And I fully agree. Yeah, it's a system that has to work on two sides. It has to work for the transport operators, but it also has to work for the enforcement authorities. Otherwise, if it doesn't work on one side, it will not work.
So we are building network,
yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So there are no winners or losers, but we have to make it happen.
Just a remark also on making it obligatory. If you want to make something obligatory, it needs to be goddamn extremely good, because otherwise you will spend your time solving problems. So it's better to start voluntary and then build.
Thank you. Next question.
This is more of a support for what Mark was saying. Although I would use the swear words is a different matter. I would probably in private, but not in public. But the key thing here is that any network will start to develop its value, or most of its value, when it has a certain level of adoption. But in order to get there, you cannot enforce this to be adopted when nobody really knows what this thing will bring. There will be so much backlash and pushback from the industry. You cannot, sorry, in my view, I will be, let's say, politically correct. In my view, it can make sense to make it mandatory, whatever the pronunciation is, once you have somewhat of a critical mass already. Because then it also makes business sense to the laggards in the adoption cycle. Just one more comment. There is this old saying, and it's really decades old, so maybe not everybody knows it. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. The culture in our industry is not around innovation. So maybe at some point we really need the regulation to change the culture.
Thank you. So I think it was like a comment for the...
Like I said, I started with supporting Mark.
Okay, would you like to add some comments to that?
Let's say the culture in transport and logistics has an as wide variety as the culture in the different member states of the European Union and its regions. So it's extremely, extremely wide.
Thank you. I have here next question.
Thank you. First, I wanted to share something with you. So the Empire State Building, I don't know if you know in how many years it has been built, but I'll try. So who thinks that it was built in 10 years? You can raise your hand. Okay, 20? The Empire State Building was built in 1 year. And I have the same hope for eFTI regulation and anything else that come on the way. So I just wanted to reinforce the message of how we support it. But I do have a very practical question because as economic operations, I personally have my own targets on revenue and excellence and customer satisfaction. And I'm wondering if you also, Barry, have a customer that says today, I want to buy your ECMR solution, and I have transports between Poland and Germany. Both have ratified the EU protocol, but for the next 1.5 years, do they need to print the document or not while they use your solution, or mine?
Us. In my opinion, they don't have to print any document because they ratified the electronic consignment note.
I actually agree with you. We have discussed, I think, this before. But I just wanted to highlight it because, as I said also in my presentation, we are changing the engine mid-flight, right? And our customers need to have some safety on what they need to do in the meantime. So I think it's important to be on the same page on what we advise them.
I want to add something. In the Benelux, we have a permit. You need a permit to create an electronic consignment note from the Benelux Convention. And there it's not allowed to use an electronic one together with a paper one because you use unique numbers on the right upper corner. So if you have a road check around the road, then they cannot know which one you use. And those are different numbers you use. If you use paper, you have a unique number range. If you use electronic one, you have a unique number range as well. And this is how they do the checks around the road right now in the Benelux.
And this applies to Belgium only, that hasn't ratified?
Benelux.
So if we try...
It doesn't mind. There is something right now, a test case, let's call it a test case inside the Benelux. And there they make some information sessions specific by using an electronic consignment note, ECMR, within the Benelux. And you can use an electronic consignment note without using any papers of copies of papers on board.
Okay, because Belgium hasn't, sorry, last question. So Belgium hasn't ratified?
Nope.
Luxembourg and Netherlands, though, have. So how Netherlands ratification is different on that sense than a German ratification?
It's a Benelux something. It's a Benelux-raad, they call it. It's something they keep out of their dust, I suppose, and they create something for a test environment for the electronic consignment note. But Belgium, fortunately, doesn't sign up for the electronic consignment note. I hope they wait for the eFTI, and that will help for the use of the electronic consignment note.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Just an observation on the ratification of the e-protocol of the CMR Convention. There is a difference between ratifying the CMR, the e-protocol of the CMR Convention and the actual implementation of the eCMR in national domain. So yes, when Poland and Germany have ratified, the convention says that they have to accept it. But beware, Germany has implemented it, Poland has not. So there is a risk that when you are stopped and you produce a pure digital CMR database, eCMR database, they won't be able to read it. So you might be penalized. So it might be good to have a digital paper version or PDF somewhere handy so that they can read it.
Yeah, I believe.
I want to add something, Mark.
Please, please.
In the app, the app is foreseen for a digital PDF format. So if they can check it, there is a format on it. Yeah, it's important, but okay, it's there.
This is the current situation in many European countries. So countries are in very different level. There is plenty of countries that still like registering all those CMR numbers by the tax authority and giving away some amount of numbers and calculating them. Then there are others who are not doing it and everything is like free. And there are countries who has been implemented at least partly this digital consignment note. Estonia is also experienced in that sense, and we have used for the forest transportation when it was mandatory, and now it's the road construction site as well. So there are specific areas when it can be implemented as well, and it gives already value for the authorities who are following those public procurements things or any other. So, any more questions?
My question is about what Mark pointed out earlier about what might be make the project successful or unsuccessful and some risks identified. As we made some progress in the project, we are not in the beginning, we have some designed some things in interfaces, in data, and so on. So for me, logical question is how, maybe for you, Haiti, how do you see our project regarding all that? Are we good?
I believe we are good because we are trying to build reference architecture which takes care about all parties' interest.
Yeah, that's also my point, just to say it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we definitely have to keep the market open for all companies who want to build their own platforms, because the platform owners can make money, but also it can be part of the transportation company's business. But I have a question regarding this part. We are talking about the transport sector at the moment. What do you think? Are they like main influencers or secondary, or who would be those main beneficiaries who can drive this part? And I would like to ask this all of you. Maybe Tony, you can help.
Yeah, it depends on the companies, of course, and what is the capabilities of different companies. But for us, we are quite strong in the digitalization, as we do pretty much everything by ourselves. So we are not relying on the externals. So TMS systems and everything has been built in-house. So we are a little bit different role than most of the companies are. But I see that economic operators, there will be becoming very easy solutions to use the FT information, and then those will be really cheap ones. And then those which are doing very nice UX and then very concentrated usability, those will be the most popular ones as well. But we see that we also need to help our customers as well in the beginning, because most of the customers doesn't have the systems where they can actually produce content which is along with the FT or future metadata requirements. So basically, we might need to act as a behalf of them at least in the beginning. But hopefully in future, TMS systems and subsystems and whatever they are using are actually having the FT environment as well, part of that there. But in the beginning, we are probably acting as a broker between those.
Am I right? Your part of your customers are in automotive industry as well?
Not automotive, but they are actually providing the raw materials to automotive industry, yes.
Because this is, by my understanding, the most complicated supply chain. And what do you think, can be there some room for the papers and not having information about what's happening in the supply chain?
Most of the customers at this moment are actually doing this kind of lean way of the factoring. So basically, what is inside of the trucks are actually the warehouse. So they are leaning on that they know that when they actually get those materials, the warehouses are minimal. So basically, the whole fleets, what they are utilizing, they know about raw materials. And then the raw materials which are coming into factories are actually, they need to know exactly where theirs are. Because it's a matter of the days, basically, when they run out of the materials for factories nowadays. So all of these materials and FT materials and these things, we know basically what has been loaded, because there might be situations, and that's quite typical situations, that when we load, there might be something missing. It's not ready yet. So basically that factory which is expecting the goods, they are expecting that that will come. So as far as that information goes back through, they actually can supply another way around. So it's all of this, basically this FT stuff will bring this kind of visibility across the supply chain. And logistics is one part of that. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yep, thank you. What you're thinking?
Yeah, I think we need to be very careful here, because eFTI is a regulation, and the regulation is absolutely nothing to do with sending dispatch note or dispatch advices. I know the automotive industry a little bit from my own DHL supply chain history. The key thing is, indeed, as you say, they need to know exactly what's on that truck at the moment it leaves, because that will help them in their actual production, shop floor scheduling as well. So, but the dispatch note and the content of the dispatch note has nothing to do with the current eFTI regulation. This has much more to do with economic operator to economic operator exchanges that currently are being still done using very old-fashioned, I'll use the word again, I don't think it's a bad word, truth be told, I forget which, you used it. Old-fashioned is not a bad word, but they're using this EDI kind of approach, and it works very well in that industry. They've highly standardized that the way it needs to work. They get it from a very large proportion of their tier 1, tier 2, and even tier 3 suppliers. So the fact that it's old-fashioned doesn't mean it doesn't work very well. And that's why I also think if we are looking at what eFTI really is for the moment at least, let's make sure that when we start looking at how it interrelates with all these other things that already exist, that we are very careful not to throw out the good just because it's old.
Yep.
All right, yeah, you are right. EDIs are in use, booking phase, yes. But the status updates and all these things doesn't go through the EDI anymore in most of the cases. But the bookings are, yeah. But the bookings is not related to what you're actually loading or unloading. What comes to the FTI, FT is high-level stuff, and then when you go down to the ECRM, actually way bill. That as well is metadata which is specified under the FT at this moment. So in that sense, in context, that actually is part of that. So basically, we are sharing that information, that metadata is when it comes to loading and unloading events and these events, we are sharing that. And then when we are using basically our own formats at this moment for all of these things, which are almost what has been proposed by the FT, or at this moment under the work in progress. Not so much need to change in reality. It's just about terminology. It's most of the things are anyway there. It's the common stuff. When we are moving goods between A and B, it's not a miracle maker stuff.
Thank you.
I point out that a consignment is not about the goods there. A consignment does not tell you in detail what the goods are that are being transported. eFTI is about freight. It's not about the goods. What they need for their production scheduling is about the goods. It's a completely different ballgame.
Mark, you mentioned as well that the industry still can be one big influencer regarding this.
Yes. And as I've said in the presentation, and well, let me try to summarize it. For the moment, eFTI and the framework, the eFTI framework, because yes, for the moment we have a regulation, and out of the regulation we're going to create a framework, all right? A process that will be usable. Huh? Now, this is for the moment a concept. It's an idea, it's words, it's provisions on paper. Okay? Now, eFTI4EU is taking that one step further, is trying to concretize the concept. All right? And that's very good, because all of us in this room and beyond this room have an enormous responsibility, because we will have to convince our constituents that this is something good. So we have an enormous responsibility to ensure that it's good and usable for everybody. Because we will have to end up convincing our constituents. So yes, we will play our role, and it will be not easy, but we will do it.
Thank you. Barry, you probably have experiences in that sense as well. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I agree that a lot of convincing work is required, but I don't agree that it's just a concept. eFTI is also a lot of lines of code, and it's concrete and it's working, maybe in a POC mode and in testing mode, but it's not just as a concept.
Yes, because you have actually moved, by writing the code, you have moved from the concept to making it more concrete by adding the code. Yes, you have, as I have said, you are on the road to making it concrete.
Barry, maybe you can fast answer. Would it be your main customers from the industry or transport side?
Like I told you during the presentation, we hope that eFTI is a game changer for us, because a lot of companies, it's chicken and the egg today, because they're pointing each other for creating the electronic document, of the paper document, excuse me. And we hope that eFTI can be the game changer for using all kinds of electronic documents and helping each other to create a sustainable logistic chain.
Frederick, what's your opinion?
The chicken and egg is there, that's for sure. It's just like the first fax machine. If you had to sell a fax machine, I'll be very interested until you have other people ready to receive the fax at the end of the day. So here the chicken and egg is all about making sure that the software solutions are becoming eFTI platforms. And then let's talk to the loaders, to the shippers. Those are probably the ones that can force the adoption of fully digitized distribution and transport in the first place.
So we have to make this like motivation in the market. Yep, one question.
No, I'm not sure it's really a question, but it's more, I'm working for Transport and Logistics in the Netherlands, and you represent around 5,000 logistics service providers. And I don't think it's in convincing the logistics service providers that the digital world is better than the paper world. They're quite obvious that we don't talk to any company who says, I'd rather stick to the paperwork. Everybody wants to go to the digitalization. But there are a few questions do need to be answered for these companies before they really take the next step. And if you look at the ECMR in particular, you have the ratification of countries, the implementation, but it's up to the market to provide with solutions for them to choose which will be your provider of an ECMR. One of the main questions they ask themselves is, if I choose that kind of solution, will I run into any kind of problems? Saying, will my customer accept my ECMR solution, or will they ask me to use another one? Will I, if my truck is pulled up from the road, will the officer setting accept my solution? The interoperability question on ECMR is the question needs to be solved very quickly. And if you can do that, then I'm 100% sure that people will take the next step. I've chosen my bank like 25 years ago, and I still can do payments all over the world with everybody. And that should be the same in the eCMR. You choose a provider, and with that provider should be able to exchange eCMRs with all the parties you have to work with. And if we can solve that question, then we can really take next steps. And the eCMR is really the proof of the pudding of the FTI. If we solve that question, then the FTI will be similar.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because we, like I said, we are building network, and network should work everywhere. It doesn't matter which service provider you are using in which country. But I believe we have few questions from the...
Yes, maybe I will read it out loud. Question is, how prevalent is e-delivery AS4 in economic operators in the system? With the regulation e-delivery, AS4 interface must be supported by the gate, but national implementations can provide a REST API. Would economic operators prefer e-delivery or REST API?
Would you like to comment that, or I can try to answer?
I can say that we prefer to REST API. It's more easier to us and more modern to actually implement than SOAP.
Another question also. Another question is, maybe I'm wrong, but in the eCMR, that should be the tool to habilitate eFTI, at least for goods and streets. There is also packaging list. Isn't the packaging list enough for automated or retail industries?
Well, I guess that would lead to my I would say last question as well, because this is quite big topic, the technology, because yes, we are different kind of technologies in the eFTI network as well. One thing is this e-delivery, which is maybe not so much known in the private side, but it is known in the governmental side. So that's the reason why this building block has been put into the eFTI network as well. And secondly, this REST API, which is probably preferable by the all economic operators and platform developers, because they know this technology and it's there, that can be used as well. And this is how we are trying to build up this network and move ahead. But in technology perspective, there are much more. And today we are in the very beginning in this journey, and to digitalize the consignment is only one small piece in the whole supply chain. So what do you think where this technology can be lead us for the, I would say, next 5 years? Because we are here at the moment starting to, or taking the first steps with the eFTI. You mentioned that it should be maybe done by the 1 year. I also support that. But still, there are many upcoming initiatives, and also in European Commission has been many different legislation parts which will be connected with this supply chain digitalization as well. What do you think? How we can, or what we should do to combine those different technologies?
What we are planning to link as well there is cargo safety, because that's how you have to actually weigh bill, and then basically it doesn't tell how the trailer has been packed up, how the driver has been doing that work. So for those kind of goods which are dangerous if they haven't been, that there's no enough ropes or there's not enough change, the evidence of that. So we link it to that actually. So that's why that way you can actually make the transportation safer, and then also about those road transportation inspections. They see the cargo which is potentially dangerous, they should stop it anyway, even that this paper is good. But if there is actually this kind of evidence that this has been done according to the laws and what is actually needed, then they can actually pass. So different kind of technologies which are surrounding it should be actually incorporated it as a service as well, to make it more transparent, this whole flow.
Well, what is important, and I think it has already been mentioned several times today, and it's also actually taking place, is that we need to look as much as possible on what we already have in terms of building stones and what we have, and that works good, and try to build the eFTI framework on that. And we've had many discussions on that, and I think we're on the right road, because we need to have something with which people are already more or less familiar today. And okay, if they are familiar with the building stones, then they will be much more familiar with the concept. So yeah, we have entered the road, and we got to take it until the end.
You can slow it down, but you can hold it back. And I think if you look around, they are expecting and they're looking around for the possibilities of hyperloops, other things in AI and possibilities, and logistics is using papers. So we have to do something that we are back on track and that we are ready for the digitalization, autonomous truck driving and everything else. Otherwise, we have huge problems because logistics will survive us all.
I got my own mic. Yeah, there are some of those actors.
By the way, autonomous trucking cannot happen without digitalization paper. There's nobody keeps that paper. So you need to have it.
Right, I'd like to finish with the fact that, and that was you again, Mark, that raised the fact that 85% of those transport companies, whether those are inland navigation or road transport, are very small organizations. So we have to really consider how we feed our eFTI platforms from information coming from those guys. How do we put in their hands what I call consumer-grade information technology? Probably it's based on mobile devices, generally speaking, because those are really accessible. They have a network connection. They come with all the features we need. So I foresee the arrival of another technology that is very well supported by the European Commission based on the eIDAS-2 regulation with the digital wallet. And I guess I'm introducing here the eFTI4EU and what my friends are considering these days. It's like, let's include those guys in the first place. Because if we leave them on the side of the road, we keep on using EDI, and that works, but they are not part of the game. They have to be part of the game.
We have one comment there. Just a minute.
Maybe one of my roles is to explain to the companies what the FT is and what is upcoming. And it sounds like that we think that all these companies are not sharing data or any documents with the people, but they're doing that all day, every day, with multiple customers. So if I try to explain what is FT, then I very often get a reply, oh, that's just another interface. So tell me what to do, where to send it, and I'll have it ready tomorrow. It's probably more than that, but we have to explain, okay, what is more than that? But maybe for the companies, it's just another interface. And if we just can explain why it's useful, why we need it, why it has to be done, what is the purpose, and is it confident and safe and things like that, then maybe it's not that complicated.
Thank you. You actually took my words.
Maybe I don't agree that it's just another interface. No, it's not just another interface. When we're just talking about just another interface, we're talking business to business. And business to business, that's one thing. But eFTI is not about business to business. eFTI is about business to government. And in August 2020, I think the European legislators gave a very important signal. And that's a milestone in, let's say, lawmaking on transport logistics. They enabled for road transport the possibility to prove compliance by electronic means. So the milestone was done. But the legislator did not say how that could be done. And that is exactly what eFTI provides. eFTI provides the conditions on how, in a harmonized, interoperable way, you can, across the 27 member states of the European Union, prove your compliance with EU and, to a large extent, also relevant national rules relating to freight. And that is what is so special about eFTI. And without eFTI, we would still be with the digital paper in terms of using electronic means to prove compliance.
Thank you so much. We have 5 minutes over time already. Sorry about that. But I'm truly honored to lead this panel discussion. I believe we have plenty of questions left. And last but not least, I'm leaving for you without answer. Why is it so that so many carriers or in transport sector still doesn't even heard about eFTI? And what we can do to improve this part? Because we are a very small group at the moment who discuss about what to do, how we can bring all the others with us as well. But that's it for today. Thank you and thank you.